Welcome to our deep dive into Philip Morris International. You might know them better as PMI. We want to see if their stock ticker symbol PM, if it might be a good fit for your portfolio. We've got some analyst ratings for you, some acquisition reports, even some medical research data we found, and a little background from Wikipedia too. So PMI, they're a global tobacco giant, but they only operate outside the United States.
Yeah, they were originally part of the Altria Group, but they spun off in 2008 to focus on international markets. That global reach is a big part of their strategy.
So let's look at their financial performance. Zacks gives PM stock a hold rating, meaning they expect it to perform about the same as the market overall. But TipRank shows PM has 17 buy ratings and only one sell rating this month. That's a pretty big difference of opinion.
Well, what's interesting is Zacks also gives PM a D for its value score, which suggests that PMI might be overvalued at its current price. However, the average 12-month price target for PM stock from TipRanks is $139.38, implying a potential upside of over 10%. So it seems that while the stock may be currently overvalued, analysts are generally optimistic about its future performance.
And speaking of their future, PMI has been pretty actively acquiring other companies. There's a report from TrackSand that highlights their aggressive strategy, including their largest acquisition to date, Swedish Match for a whopping $16 billion.
Swedish Match makes smokeless tobacco products, so that adds to PMI's portfolio beyond just traditional cigarettes. You know this acquisition along with their purchases of Vectura. Vectura is an inhaled drug delivery company, and Fertin Pharma, a nicotine gum manufacturer. All of this shows a pretty clear shift in strategy for PMI. It seems like they're pushing hard towards a future beyond cigarettes.
That's a great point. It seems like they're not just relying on acquisitions for growth either. They're also developing their own innovations. We found data on Synapse, it's a medical research platform, showing that PMI has a drug development pipeline with drugs for various conditions, including respiratory diseases.
Yes, and one of their most notable projects is a phase 3 clinical trial for a drug using hexaminolevulinate hydrochloride to treat precancerous skin lesions. So this trial, along with their acquisition of Vectura, suggests that PMI is serious about leveraging its expertise in inhalation technology to become a player in the pharmaceutical space.
And PMI's global market share is certainly something to consider. They hold a significant portion of the cigarette market outside of the U.S., giving them exposure to potentially high-growth emerging markets. But of course, we have to address the ethical implications of investing in a tobacco company.
Well, PMI claims to be making efforts to transition towards smoke-free products and address environmental concerns by reducing plastic waste and carbon emissions. While this information is important to consider, it is ultimately up to you to determine if investing in PMI aligns with your own personal values.
Now, on the financial side, PMI has a history of paying dividends and repurchasing its own shares, which can be appealing to certain investors. However, we also need to consider the potential drawbacks of owning PM stock.
Right, the tobacco industry faces constant regulatory risks and the potential for increased taxes globally. There's also competition from other big tobacco companies and the rise of alternative products like e-cigarettes and vaping.
And then there's the economic impact of the tobacco industry to think about. While it creates jobs and generates tax revenue, declining smoking rates in developed countries and rising demand in developing countries creates a complex landscape for companies like PMI to navigate.
So as you can see, there are a lot of factors to weigh when considering if PM is right for your portfolio. Let's continue our deep dive in the next segment. We've talked about PMI's push toward a smoke-free future. But it's important to acknowledge the challenges they face in this transition. You know, governments worldwide are imposing stricter regulations on tobacco, including advertising bans, plain packaging, and higher taxes.
These regulations are aimed at curbing smoking rates, which obviously directly impacts the profitability of tobacco companies like PMI.
And on top of that, you have the growing popularity of alternatives to cigarettes, e-cigarettes, vaping, heated tobacco, nicotine pouches are all gaining traction, creating some pretty intense competition in this evolving market.
And PMI's acquisition of Vectura plays a crucial role in their response to this shift. Vectura's expertise in inhaled drug delivery could be key to developing new, potentially less harmful products that appeal to consumers seeking alternatives.
That's right. It's a strategic move to adapt to changing consumer preferences and tap into potentially lucrative new markets and their venture into pharmaceuticals. With the phase 3 trial for hexaminolevulinate hydrochloride, further exemplifies this strategy.
Yeah, if PMI can successfully bring a pharmaceutical product to market, it could significantly diversify their revenue streams and even reshape how investors perceive the company, moving away from a traditional tobacco image.
However, we have to be realistic. The pharmaceutical industry is incredibly complex and highly regulated. Success in this arena is far from guaranteed.
Exactly. It remains to be seen if PMI can navigate these complexities and establish a successful foothold beyond their traditional business.
And then there's the global economic landscape to consider. The tobacco industry is pretty vulnerable to economic downturns. When economies struggle, people tend to cut back on discretionary spending. And for some cigarettes fall into that category.
That's a good point. A global recession could significantly impact PMI's sales and profitability, particularly in those emerging markets they're relying on for growth.
However, PMI's global presence can also act as a buffer against regional economic weakness. If one region is underperforming, stronger performance in other markets could help offset the impact.
So their global reach is a bit of a double-edged sword. It mitigates some risks, but also exposes PMI to a broader range of economic uncertainties.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears to their recent performance, PMI has consistently generated strong cash flow and rewarded shareholders through dividends and buybacks.
Yeah, their dividend policy is particularly attractive to income-seeking investors, but it's crucial to assess the sustainability of those dividends.
Right, if earnings decline due to regulatory pressures, competition, or economic headwinds, those dividends could be at risk.
The same applies to share buybacks. They can boost earnings per share in the short term, but if the company's financial performance weakens, buybacks might not be sustainable.
So investors need to look beyond attractive dividends and buybacks and carefully evaluate the fundamentals of the business.
So circling back to our initial question, is PM stock a good fit for your portfolio?
Well, we've examined PMI's financial performance, their ambitious acquisition strategy, their push into smoke-free products, and even pharmaceuticals. We've also discussed the ethical and economic considerations surrounding their business.
But there's one more critical aspect we need to explore. Yeah, you're right, we've covered a lot. But as you mentioned, there's one more crucial piece to the puzzle, and that's PMI's leadership, their vision for the company's future.
Absolutely. In any industry, but especially one as complex and evolving as tobacco, a company's leadership can really make or break it. PMI's CEO has publicly stated their commitment to transforming the company into a broader healthcare and wellness organization. They've put a lot of money into research and development, especially in smoke-free products and pharmaceuticals.
It's a bold vision for sure,
Yeah.
and pulling it off requires a strong and capable leadership team. Investors need to evaluate whether they believe in management's ability to achieve these goals.
Yeah, looking at their track record is key. Have they shown sound strategic thinking and adaptability in response to changing market conditions?
Well, their aggressive acquisition strategy definitely suggests a willingness to take risks and make bold moves.
But are these calculated risks that will pay off in the long run? Or are they signs of a company desperately trying to stay relevant in a shrinking market? That's a critical question for investors to consider.
It seems like the future of PMI really hinges on their ability to successfully navigate this transition if they can establish themselves as a leader in the smoke-free and wellness space. Their growth potential could be significant.
Absolutely. But if they stumble or fail to gain traction in these new markets, their future is a lot less certain.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Philip Morris International, it's clear that there are many factors to consider. We've explored their financial performance, their acquisition strategy, their innovation pipelines, and the ethical and economic considerations surrounding their business.
And as we've discussed, evaluating the company's management team, their strategic vision, and their ability to execute that vision effectively is really crucial when deciding if PM stock is right for you.
You've given us a lot to think about. Now it's time for you to do your own research. Weigh these factors and determine if investing in PMI aligns with your investment goals and risk tolerance. If you'd like to explore other companies and potential investment opportunities, head over to our YouTube channel and let us know in the comments what stocks you'd like us to deep dive into next. We're always eager to uncover new and exciting investment ideas. Until next time.